I'm Vahid Razavi with BizCloud. I'm here with Ann Winblad from Hummer Winblad Venture Capital. Ann, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. You were part of the tech entrepreneur keynote speaker this evening with the Canadian Consulate. Wanted to get a quick update in regards to how you see the role of women in Silicon Valley and in technology sector here.
First of all, it was great that the Canadian Consulate and HSBC sponsored so many great women visiting Silicon Valley. It was a real tour de force of 2 days, visiting almost every company you could think of. I think it's the year of the woman. Certainly Cheryl's laid down the gauntlet of, how you can be authentic and still be successful. Ginny Rometty last year became the first woman CEO and chairman of IBM Corporation. She was out in Silicon Valley yesterday speaking to NVCA, the National Venture Capital Association. I think this is the year that if women don't feel empowered, they never will. So it's a great time for people to visit from Canada and other countries and really see what a great environment we have here for men and for women.
That's great. Now, Ann, in regards to encouraging the next generation of entrepreneurs and women to join entrepreneurial spirit of Silicon Valley, what advice do you have and what resources are needed in order to encourage more women to come to the tech sector?
Well, Silicon Valley is very unique, as you know. I mean, we have a powerful entrepreneurial environment here. It's a virtuous circle of people. Nobody's a woman or a guy or a anything. It's really great set theory of you need to find enough people that work with you to row the oars of your business, so that when you hit choppy waters, it's not just one man or one woman overboard and you're gone. So I think this is the real discovery for women, is that it's not about them individually, it's about how do they become part of this virtuous circle. How do they compete for talent? How do they communicate their ideas? How do they find their supporters? Because there are supporters for women here. And how do they find both money, talent? They have to bring their own ideas to the table. It's very Darwinian here. It's not easy to get funded. It's not easy to build companies. But once you're in this virtuous circle, you're in. So I think of it as more of laying down the gauntlet for women, is come on down. Don't study the problem from afar. Don't try to be someone other than yourself, but realize it's very competitive here. If you're a fierce competitor, if you really have a big idea, if you have the ability to attract talent, if you can communicate your idea and your large business opportunity, you're in. You'll get money, you'll get talent, and you'll build a big business.
That's great, Ann. One question that I have is I see a lot of tech entrepreneurs or women entrepreneurs, but I don't see that many in the B2B enterprise application space. They're predominantly, even in the tech sector, are focused within online shopping or e-commerce or crowdsourcing or those kinds of apps. What words of encouragement do you have for women that are looking to enter the B2B or the cloud computing and the big data space that you cover extensively?
Well, we fund 95% of the companies we fund are B2B and for the enterprise, really core software. And I will tell you that the companies we fund, typically, we fund at the A round. They may have had a seed round first, but there's a lot of engineering talent in those companies. They can actually lift up the hood of the car and tell you what's under the hood. I was fortunate that when I went to school, I got a degree in mathematics. I took all the computer science classes there were to be had and got another major in business. A lot of women are finding that they may not have made those choices in college. It's not too late, especially here in the Valley. There are girls that code. You can learn how to be, how engineers think, how they work. You don't have to be the architect, but you're going to have to, if you're in the B2B space, you're going to be working with engineers, you're going to be recruiting engineers, you're going to be competing for engineers, and you're going to be building something that has probably pretty deep IP or intellectual property. So it's got a different bar. Unfortunately, we're not graduating enough women engineers, computer scientists, or even just people with programming skills like I had. So for people who are young women, this is a great place to be. It's not hard to learn how to program. I would recommend, I went to a liberal arts college, take one programming class. You actually may like it, and you'll find out it's not that hard. You'll say, wow. I mean, it doesn't mean you're going to have to be a PhD computer scientist, but I do think that even in the B2C space, where the elements that you've talked about, using analytics, really using the magic of software to build a better customer experience, it's table stakes there as well. It's, so B2C has a lot of depth of engineering. So, if you find yourself here and you didn't get those technical skills, it's not too late. You can get them now, especially here. I mean, every weekend there's some, girls who code, girls who learn programming. Figure it out. Start now.
Absolutely, and we see so many focused events around hackathons and development conferences that are focused on women, and it's encouraging to see more of that. One area that Hummer Winblad and yourself focus on, as you mentioned, is big data and cloud computing. And it seems that in that space, there's so many players now. There are entrenched gorillas in the market, and then there are up-and-coming companies and startups. What criteria do you set for evaluating these ventures, and what are you looking for in these companies?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, no one comes into us and says, I do small data anymore. We get these sort of monikers describing our trends: social, mobile, cloud, big data. Once something becomes trendy, the ponds start getting pretty polluted. So we have to lean forward to figure out what's next. Big data is really only one of the contributors to what we see as what IBM calls the cognitive era, that we're actually going to move to a next generation of predictive analytics, that a lot of the stuff that we're seeing that are young companies building big data infrastructures, company building tools for machine learning, that we might get some companies created a la carte out of those sets of tooling needed. But probably the next wave and the bigger wave on the data space is really building true predictive analytics companies. And that will then spread as tooling across both B2C and B2B. We have to swim under the waves as A-round investors and sort of figure out what's coming next. We, venture capitalists, we don't predict the future, we only get to purchase small parts of it.
I see. Well, I'm going to ask, if you had a crystal ball, and back in the days, we were in 1999, 2000, we had the bubble. Do you see that there's a potential of another bubble in the big data and cloud space? Or what's your view on that?
We funded our first software as a service company, which was multi-tenant SaaS, in 1997. A company in Atlanta, Georgia called Employees. It's now about a 700-person division of ADP. It was a great investment for us, a sizable acquisition, but people weren't even saying cloud then. The reason it wasn't cloud is they built their own data center versus ran it on Amazon. So every time innovation looks, when we look backwards, it looks like it's kind of a gradual slope, but it actually is flat points and spikes. And during the spikes, we get, always we get overfunding in particular areas because people think, this is it, I want to be part of that. And then there's an era of creative destruction until we get done with the next flat point and into the spike point. The spike point today is pretty large because we do have the proliferation of devices. All those devices are smart. We have the proliferation of data. We have new cloud platforms, new economics for those cloud platforms, whether it's Amazon, Azure, Rackspace, or Google as of yesterday. We have a different customer engagement model. We have an ending era of PCs, a beginning era of fully distributed computing. There are lots of drivers of innovation. And, when you take that to the enterprise, it changes everything. Every bit of tooling you use, how you develop software. I'm on the board of Sonatype. They're the purveyors of Maven, the popular open source build platform, and they're the gatekeepers of the central repository. Last year, developers downloaded 8 billion open source components from the central repository. People don't even code anymore, they assemble code. So that we're in a glorious and really sensational period of change. So the opportunities to figure out what the combinatorials of all these different innovation pieces will yield a lot of great companies. In the next few days, we'll see Tableau go public, data visualization. We'll see Marketo go public, customer engagement platform. We're investors in Marketo. They'll both be great IPOs, and both of them have many ingredients: SaaS, analytics, big data. It's not just one, but not everybody will win, and that's why we're called venture capitalists versus capitalists. But we're very, very fortunate now that there's very rapid growth in many of these companies. As venture capitalists, we have to be leaning into, we have to see in the near future almost $100 million of revenue before we take them public. So we're bringing sturdier companies public as well, and larger ones. So I think that 1999 was a little crazy. More than a little crazy, it was totally crazy, because it was a big bang of one thing, the internet. And we thought we had many of the pieces we have today. First of all, there's less capital now. We had 1,200 venture capital firms in 1999. There's only about 500 now. We had 100 in 1990 when we started. So there's not as much capital to do silly things with. There's a broader innovation palette now, and much better tooling. The internet truly is a platform. We just got a little ahead of ourselves. But our job as venture capitalists is to take risks about the future. We invest dollars at the highest risk point. We give it directly to the entrepreneurs, and then we work very, very hard to be helpful coaches to the creators of new companies. But we are seeing an era where we're creating a great new set of companies that are delivering big value propositions to customers, especially in the enterprise software space.
Wonderful, Ann. Well, it's such a pleasure and honor to get a chance to interview Ann Winblad, one of the TechWomen visionaries and venture capitalists of Silicon Valley. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.